I'm Christina Colosimo. I'm a new faculty. I'm a trauma surgeon at the University of Arizona, Tucson. And this is the How I Do It educational series that we developed for the Associate Fellows Committee. We've really found leaders in the field to come and talk about how they got into this position and give tips to our associate fellows. And today we're very lucky to have Dr. Patricia Turner with us. So to start off, Dr. Turner, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Thanks so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here. I'm Patricia Turner. I'm a GI surgeon. I do minimally invasive and laparoscopic GI surgery and was an academic surgeon for a number of years before joining the ACS. I was on the faculty at the University of Maryland and was a program director for the surgery residency program. And then about 11 years ago, had a change in pathway and came to the ACS to take over the Division of Member Services. And then in January of this year, took over as the executive director. So I've been in this role about 9 months now, but have been at the college for about 11 years. So really a pleasure to be here with you all. You are, not only the future of the organization, but you are our leaders of today. So really a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. So we actually, tweeted out a lot of questions to some of the associate members and asked them what they would like to know from you. And one of the questions was really, how you would guide others on finding their voice and their leadership style.
I think that is a great question and one that all of us, as we are developing as leaders, think about. And I think it is important to emphasize that we all develop as leaders. We continue to learn and grow. So no matter how junior you are or how senior you are, there's still growth and opportunities for leadership. So making sure that you are authentic is probably the main thing that I would say. There's a lot that's written about leadership. There's a lot that's written about different leadership styles and ways that you should or you shouldn't behave or things that you should and shouldn't do. And probably my best advice is, if you try to wedge yourself into a style that doesn't suit you, it A, won't work, and B, will make you incredibly uncomfortable. So there's not a single way to be a leader, just like there's not a single way to exist in the space. So some people are the soaring orators and can inspire people just by speech making. Other people are servant leaders and are really much less inclined to want the spotlight on them. They really are sort of in the wings. Other people are coaches. And so they lead by encouraging and growing others and advancing them. And so that's their legacy. I think there's a lot of different ways to be a leader. So what our job is to figure out what our strengths are and then lean into those strengths and use those to leverage our ability to lead effectively.
Absolutely. And you kind of sort of answered it, but the next question people would like to know is, how do you find your niche? Like, how do you find, what your calling is in surgery?
I think you have to do what you love. I mean, it is really quite similar. There are people who just love being in the OR and that's all they want to do, and they're extraordinary technicians. There are those who want to do research, and that's really their calling. They love to operate, but they really would rather be in the lab, and they're really on the cutting or bleeding edge, as it were. Other people are born educators, and yes, they operate, but really their claim to fame is making sure that they're able to convey the information, and they're just extraordinary teachers, extraordinary mentors and advocates. So I think finding your niche is really in part figuring out what you love and what it is that you enjoy doing and that you want to be like the best at. What is the narrow slice of the world that you want to be the world's expert in? And then that is where you want to focus your efforts. And if you don't like whatever education, but your mentor says you should be an education person, and that may not be the direction you want to go, despite the best intentions of your mentors. If you don't love it, you can't make a career of it. So, leaning into the case that you love, or, operative skills that you really enjoy, or, being on the cutting edge of technology in the OR, or teaching or research, or being engaged with organized medicine, or like there's a lot of choices.
Mhm.
But I think that leading with what you love is A, and then B, trying to think about where you can double dip, like where your academic interests may overlap with your clinical interests. It's a lot easier to write papers about the operations that you do every day as opposed to operating a lot and then trying to write papers about something that's a completely different area. So trying to double dip is another way to figure out what your niche might be, because you can, write papers or give talks or, engage in some specialty society leadership roles as a result of what you're also an expert in the operating room, for example.
So something that's very important for associate fellows is, finding that job, finding a good, perfect fit for them, especially coming right out. And we actually wrote a paper about how it was difficult in COVID to find a job, which just got published in the Bulletin this month.
Mhm.
So how would you guide others on determining what to look for in a new job for, someone coming right out of residency or fellowship?
So this is a tough time. I recognize that it is a tough time to finish training. It's a tough time to be a new attending, whether you're in private practice or in academics. The pandemic has really turned a lot of things on their head. I mean, even our interview processes are different. A lot of first interviews are now done on Zoom, and you don't really get a chance to get there and maybe talk to as many people as you might have talked to in the past, or have the curbside conversations to determine whether it's a good fit. So a lot of those non-verbals, a lot of things that you may discover at dinner the night before, or having a drink with someone, or talking to other faculty that may not be on your interview schedule, or other attendings or partners that may not be on your interview schedule, but you run into them in person. A lot of that does not happen if you're interviewing via Zoom. That said, I think the point is, for many, the individuals are going to make or break their practice. So yes, it's important what your contract is. Yes, it's important how much money you make. Yes, it's important to negotiate, bonuses, or how you buy in if you want to be a partner in the practice or whatever. Those are all incredibly important things. But what's really valuable, particularly as a new attending, is making sure that the people make you feel supported and that you trust them. Because no matter how good you are, there will be cases that will stress you out, or there will be cases that you've only seen once or that you've never seen, and you want to feel like you can call a partner or a senior partner, or even a colleague that's your same age, or just another fresh pair of eyes sometimes is really helpful. But if you're in an environment where you don't feel like you have that kind of relationship where you can call your partner if you need help in the OR, that's probably not going to be a great fit, because in the beginning, you want that support. You want someone to back you up. And then over time, obviously that becomes less and less of an important issue, and you're the backup for someone else. But as you're thinking about picking a great spot, that's one thing I would consider. Certainly all of the other things that we've talked about, making sure that you're thoughtful with your contract, making sure that you have legal counsel review your contract. I mean, no one should sign a contract without a lawyer looking at it, but you'd be amazed that people do sign contracts without having a lawyer look at them. Thinking about things like, coverage for malpractice. Are you going to be employed? Are you going to be, in a practice that's large or small, or what is the coverage when you're out of town, or when you're trying to take time off to go to meetings? Are you the only person in a practice with maybe only two people, and you're the only one taking call? I mean, all of those sorts of things, particularly as it relates to work-life balance, particularly as it relates to whatever the family situation may be, as it relates to where you see yourself in 5 years, all of those sorts of things come into it. Critically important to talk to people who've left the practice, and that applies whether it's academic or private practice. Who was there and left? Go talk to them. Figure out why they left. Was it really a better opportunity, or was it really because there were some red flags that you just haven't seen yet? So all of those are important steps as you're going through the process. And I do think it helps to have a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan, because if you're trying to be at a certain place at the end of the day, will this position help you get there? Or is this not really the right fit? Because what you don't want to do is get somewhere, buy a house, put your kids in school, whatever, have your partner move, whatever the situation might be, and then find out it's not the right fit, and you now cannot leave. Because you've got everyone else, around you who's now stuck in that spot, and you don't have the luxury of leaving. So you really want to be as thoughtful as you can and hope that it's somewhere that'll be a good fit for at least a few years.
So I laughed a little bit because I took an academic job and I was told my contract was non-negotiable. So I didn't have anybody review it or anything. I just kind of was like, oh, I got a job and signed on the line kind of thing.
Okay, so
Um,
I'm not laughing at you because I did the same thing. To be
okay.
clear, like I give all kinds of advice, but like we don't always take our own advice. And so when I took my first job at the University of Maryland, they handed me a piece of paper. They were like, "Here's your contract." I was happy. I had a job. I signed it, and I, went on about my business. So I did not take my own advice. I didn't have a lawyer look at it. I didn't negotiate anything, and I was just happy to have a job. So.
So that leads us to our next question, which is how would you guide those who are negotiating their first academic job?
So I do think that there are ways to negotiate that don't leave you feeling like you are burning any bridges. In a lot of situations, I think that that's why particularly junior people don't negotiate. The older you get, the more comfortable you get with negotiations because you realize that everyone is doing it. But as a junior person where you've just been in residency or in fellowship and there's something to negotiate as a trainee, it seems like a jarring sort of situation. So what I would encourage is everything is negotiable, but it's not just salary. And I think that that's often what people think about. Oh, I have to negotiate a higher salary. That's not the only thing that's negotiable. It may be that the amount of money that you get to spend on CME activities is negotiable. It may be that if you're a researcher, that the amount of protected time that you have is negotiable. It may be that the number or the way in which your call is distributed is negotiable. So going in with a very open mind about what are all of the elements that can be negotiated helps you get to what you want, even if it's not, a different number on the bottom line in terms of money. So I would probably say the best advice I can give about negotiations is not to be too narrow in what a negotiation looks like, and to be really open to other things that may not only be salary, that may still make your life much better or may help advance your career or move you forward. Even in an academic setting, there is room to have that conversation.
Yeah. Oh, good to know for the next time. So, or for everybody watching this video.
Right.
Our
And just
last,
on that point, AAMC data is everyone's best friend. I think everyone knows that. But if you're in academics, it's AAMC. If you're in private practice, it's MGMA. But knowing and being equipped with those numbers can also help provide you with a little more courage to have the conversation, because you know that you're not like way off base or way out in left field, because you literally are prepped with those data. And that's something that we do as surgeons all the time. We prepare, we read, we have the information when we walk into the room, and then we forget all of that sometimes when it's time to negotiate.
yeah, absolutely. All right. So our last question for you is, what is one piece of advice or wisdom that has always stuck with you?
I think it is, to bring everything full circle back to the first comment, it really is to be authentic. Like I honestly think that if we are confident in ourselves and bring our whole selves to work every day and think about what it is that we want to do as far as putting patient care first, or doing the best research that you can do, or being the best teacher or the best mentor or what have you, recognizing how you are enough and you are going to be great at what you do if you put in the work. And all of us are hard workers. All of us invest the time and energy, and recognizing that your authentic self is what you need to bring. That is probably the best advice that I got, because I think if you listen to some advice you'll get, it's really about wedging sort of round pegs into square holes and trying to force yourself into someone else's version of what a leader looks like, or what a surgeon looks like, or how a faculty member behaves, or what have you. And there are some very narrowly written expectations. And so trying to wedge yourself into those is A, not allowing you to bring all of what you are to the table and all of that excellence. And B, you'll be miserable. And C, like, why? So, making sure obviously that you're well prepared. Preparation is at the root of everything. And again, as surgeons, that's our job, is to make sure that we are on, we can't have a bad day, right? So we are on our A game at all times. So that's the floor, not the ceiling. But once that is established, your excellent patient care is established, then on top of that, you have to bring all of these other elements that make you, unique and wonderful and, creative and innovative and problem solving and all that sort of thing that gets us to better solutions at the end of the day. And as a leader, that's really what you need. It's the ability to solve problems. It's the ability to get from point A to point B, to chart a course, to craft a strategy, to, move forward in a way that is productive and creative.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Turner. We really appreciate you for doing this. You really are truly an inspiration to, many young leaders, especially a lot of the female leadership that you're seeing in the Associate Fellows Committee. But, truly, thank you so much for taking the time to come talk to us.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and I hope to see all of you in San Diego in like 5 weeks at Clinical Congress. So I know everyone can't get off to come, but we will have live stream segments and on-demand segments, but I certainly hope to see all of you in person in San Diego. So thanks so much.
Great. Thank you so much.
Great. Take care. Have a good evening.
Bye.